Let's get right into it. Number 10. The contraband chocolate egg. Imagine you're coming back from a trip, you've got souvenirs, a couple snacks, and tucked in your bag is one innocent little kinder surprise. You're thinking, cute, my kid's gonna love this. And then US Customs treats you like you're smuggling plutonium. Because in the United States, that tiny hollow chocolate egg with a toy inside is legally contraband. Here's the twist. It's not because Ferrero forgot paperwork. It's because of a dusty old federal rule that goes back to the 1938 Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. The law basically says you can't embed a non-nutritive object inside candy. Translation, if there's a toy capsule hidden IDAT. And honestly, I get the logic. It's like hiding a plastic coin inside a meatball and then acting surprised when somebody doesn't chew. The problem is, the law doesn't care that the rest of the planet has been eating these eggs for decades without turning into a society of chocolate-choking zombies. It's just a hard nope. So what happens in real life? According to reports, Customs and Border Protection has been seizing tens of thousands of these things over the years, something like 30,000 to 60,000 a year. And the penalty can sound insane on paper, up to $2,500 per egg in theoretical maximum fines. Over a 20-gram chocolate egg. That's not a snack anymore, that's a down payment. Ferrero eventually had to do the most corporate workaround imaginable. They redesigned the product for the US market. That's how we got Kinder Joy, the legal loophole version, where the toy and chocolate are in totally separate sealed halves. So technically, you're not eating candy with a surprise inside. You're eating candy next to a surprise. Totally different. Totally not the same thing. So yeah, America didn't ban chocolate eggs. America banned the concept of fun occurring inside food. Number 9. The radioactive shoe store box. Back in the mid-1900s, buying shoes wasn't just a try them on and walk around situation. No. You'd step up onto this wooden pedestal, slide your feet into a little slot, and the salesman would say basically, all right, now watch your bones. Because shoe stores used to have x-ray machines in the store for kids. Like it was a gumball dispenser. And the twist is, it wasn't some harmless light trick. It was a real fluoroscope, an actual x-ray tube near the floor, aimed upward through your feet, so you could look through a viewfinder and see your toe bones wiggling inside the shoe. Cute, right? Except you weren't just checking the fit. You were getting blasted with unshielded radiation. For the crime of needing sneakers. According to reports, once health departments actually measured these things, some machines were putting out something like 20 to 75 rems per minute. And sure, your exposure might only be 20 to 45 seconds while mom debated loafers. Still not exactly the vibe you want in a children's department. It's like leaving the microwave door open while it's running and using it to warm your feet. Retailers tried to sell it as scientific fitting. Totally safe. Very modern. Meanwhile, the machines had basically no shielding, and the people standing next to them all day, the employees, were catching the worst of it. Customers might walk away with a story. Salespeople were risking real damage from repeated exposure, so states started cracking down. In the US, bans and regulations rolled out state by state, starting with Pennsylvania in 1957. And by around 1970, these things were effectively gone, either banned outright or regulated into extinction. Which is honestly comforting. Because we live in a world where we'll argue online for 3 hours about screen time, then casually remember we used to irradiate an entire generation of toes, just to avoid returning a pair of size 4S. Number 8. The blackout in a can. You know when you're tired at a party and your body's like, all right, we're done, time to sit down, drink water, and stop making decisions? Yeah. The original 4. Loco basically looked at that safety feature and said, nope, uninstalling that. Because this wasn't just booze. It was a bright camouflage-patterned gas station can for about $3, sitting there like an energy drink. Except it was around 12% alcohol, plus caffeine, guarana, and taurine. So your brain got the "we're awake" signal at the exact same time your blood alcohol level was climbing like a video game speedrun. And here's the twist. Caffeine doesn't make you less drunk. It just makes you a wide-awake drunk. So you don't feel the usual sleepy warning signs, you keep drinking, and then alcohol poisoning hits you like a delayed freight train. It's basically flooring the gas and the brake at the same time until the engine explodes, except the engine is you, and the check engine light is your friends filming. In late 2010, things got ugly fast. At Central Washington University, 9 students ended up hospitalized with blood alcohol levels reported between 0.12 and 0.35, so extreme that police initially thought something had been slipped into drinks. And suddenly colleges started banning it because, it turns out, pre-mixing 4 or 5 beers with 2 or 3 cups of coffee in one can is not a vibe. Fusion projects tried to fight it like, people mix vodka and energy drinks all the time. Why is ours different? And the FDA basically replied, cool argument, still illegal. They didn't ban alcohol, they used the legal kill switch. They said adding caffeine to alcoholic beverages counts as an unsafe food additive, which makes the product adulterated under federal law. Translation: you can sell alcohol, you can sell caffeine, but combine them like that, and now it's a problem. The crackdown was fast. They were told to comply in about 15 days or face seizure and injunction threats. Production stopped, stock got pulled, and the whole caffeinated alcoholic beverage category basically got wiped out overnight. Four Loko still exists now. It's just flavored malt liquor. No stimulants, no cheat code. So yeah, government regulation didn't stop people from partying. It just stopped one $3 can from successfully hacking the human nervous system's ability to pass out. Number 7. The exploding sweaters. Here's the weird part. In the early 1950s, you could buy a cute fuzzy sweater that would ignite and disappear in like 10 to 20 seconds. No exaggeration. These things got nicknamed torch sweaters because they didn't just catch fire, they flash burned. One match, one cigarette ember, even getting too close to a hot stove, and the whole garment could erupt like it was made of solid gasoline. The setup is almost wholesome. Post-World War II, manufacturers figured out how to make cheap synthetic rayon look like fancy Angora. They'd brush the fabric to pull up this deep, fluffy fuzz so it felt soft, looked expensive, and was suddenly everywhere. Affordable fashion win. Until people started showing up with horrific burns because they couldn't get the sweater off fast enough. And the mechanism is brutally simple. Rayon comes from cellulose, basically wood pulp. Then, the brushing process turns the surface into thousands of tiny upright fibers with tons of trapped air. That's surface area plus oxygen, aka the exact recipe for a flashover. It's the same science as taking a solid log, which burns slowly, and turning it into fine sawdust, which can ignite violently. Meanwhile, there were basically no federal safety standards for how flammable clothing could be. So, reportedly, you had street vendors and peddlers selling these fuzzy fire hazards out of car trunks like they were bootleg concert tees. And as panic spread, police were confiscating thousands of sweaters in 1952 while everyone realized, oh cool, my outfit is a match away from becoming a medical emergency. It got so bad Congress had to step in. In 1953, they passed the Flammable Fabrics Act, setting the first real burn test standards for textiles sold in the U.S., and effectively banning the most dangerous brushed rayon versions from the market, which is a wild legacy. Those little modern clothing tags warning about flame resistance, the ones you ignore like they're a joke? Yeah, they exist because at one point in American history, we had to regulate sweaters like they were homemade explosives. Number 6, the carcinogenic Christmas. Everyone thinks the good old days were classier, more wholesome, simpler. Yeah. Except in the good old days, people literally decorated their Christmas trees with asbestos. Like, not trace amounts, not a little contamination. I mean a box of flaky white powder you bought on purpose, brought into your living room and sprinkled everywhere to make your tree look frosty. Very magical, very Hallmark. Also, reportedly 100% chrysotile asbestos. And the twist is, it actually made sense at the time. Asbestos was the miracle mineral. It didn't burn, it didn't melt, it was cheap, and it looked like perfect snow. So families used it on trees and fake fireplace embers, all that cozy winter stuff. Because what's more festive than turning your house into a tiny blizzard? The problem is what asbestos really is. A mineral that breaks into microscopic, durable fibers, tiny, needle-like strands. When you inhale them, they can lodge in your lungs and just stay there. Your body can't dissolve them. It's like breathing in indestructible fiberglass dust that never leaves. And instead of coughing it out, you carry it around for decades. And that's where the stakes get creepy because asbestos disease is basically a slow burn horror movie. According to health agencies, mesothelioma and other cancers can take 20 to 50 years to show up. So you could have had snowdrift on your tree in the 1940s, felt totally fine, and then pay for that Christmas aesthetic in retirement. Once the medical community started definitively linking asbestos inhalation to deadly lung disease, the whole thing became impossible to defend, especially because the consumer products were designed to aerosolize it. You weren't just owning asbestos, you were actively creating airborne asbestos inside your home, like it was part of the vibe. Industries fought to keep it legal because, again, it's an incredible fire retardant, but eventually, the risk was so wildly unacceptable that the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission targeted specific household goods, like artificial embers and fake snow, and by 1977, asbestos in those consumer products was banned. So yeah, the irony is almost poetic. Families were trying to protect their homes from the fire hazard of Christmas lights, and accidentally blanketed their living rooms in a carcinogen. Merry Christmas, don't inhale the decorations. Number 5. The Guillotine Crib. A company named Dropside Crib Manufacturers looked at exhausted parents with sore backs and said, "Don't worry, we can fix this." And for decades, it worked. One side of the crib would slide down so you could scoop your baby up without doing a deadlift at 3 a.m. And then the twist hit. That moving side wasn't a convenience feature. It was a mechanical trap waiting to age, because the whole thing depended on cheap plastic tracks, springs, and hardware staying perfectly aligned forever. And real life doesn't do perfectly aligned forever. Wood expands and contracts. Plastic wears down. Cribs get taken apart, shoved in a garage, then reassembled for the next kid like IKEA archaeology. And over time, that drop side could warp or loosen just enough to create a gap, only a few inches. But that's all it took. Here's the nightmare math. A baby's body can slip through that space, but their head can't. So they slide down, get pinned in this V-shaped gap between the mattress and the loosened side, and they can't free themselves. It's like an elevator door that gets stuck half open, except the pit is a suffocation hazard, and the person trapped is an infant. Between 2000 and 2010, the CPSC linked the design to 32 infant suffocations. And manufacturers tried the classic playbook: recalls, repair kits, you assembled it wrong, tiny tweaks, anything to avoid admitting the obvious. But the CPSC basically concluded it wasn't user error. It was an inherent design failure. The concept itself was the problem. So, in December 2010, the CPSC voted unanimously to ban drop-side cribs, and by June 28, 2011, it became illegal in the US to manufacture, sell, or even donate them. Not this brand, not this model. The entire idea got wiped off the map. Retailers reportedly ate millions in dead inventory, and more than 11 million cribs had already been recalled before the full ban took effect. And the punchline is brutal. The feature designed to save parents from a mild backache ended up being treated like a federal-level hazard. Now, basically every modern crib has 4 fixed sides, because we collectively decided, yeah, the baby guillotine option? Let's not. Number 4, the radioactive energy drink. So why don't we just put energy in a bottle and sell it as health? Because sometimes energy is literally radiation, and your skeleton is not built for that subscription. In the 1920s, radiation had this shiny, futuristic reputation, like it was a miracle battery from the universe, and a guy named William J.A. Bailey decided to cash in. He sold Radithor, a health tonic that was basically triple distilled water infused with radium isotopes, marketed to cure everything from stomach aches to impotence. And here's the twist. It wasn't fake. It wasn't just vibes and fancy labels. It actually contained real radium, meaning customers were paying premium prices to drink liquid radiation on purpose. The most famous fan was Eben Byers, a wealthy industrialist and amateur golf champion. In 1927, he started drinking Radithor for an arm injury, and then reportedly fell in love with it, like 3 bottles a day love. By 1930, he'd downed his 1,400th bottle, and his body started cashing the check his mouth wrote. Because radium has this evil little trick, it behaves chemically like calcium, so your body goes, "Oh sweet, calcium," and deposits it straight into your bones. Then it just sits there, blasting alpha particles into your bone tissue and marrow 24/7. It's like building a house with bricks made of slow-burning charcoal. Sure, it looks sturdy, until you realize the walls are cooking from the inside, and the stakes got straight-up body horror. Byers' skull reportedly developed holes, His bones began dissolving, and his entire lower jaw rotted so badly it had to be surgically removed. The scandal hit newspapers with the kind of headline that sounds like a dark comedy. Basically, the radium water worked great until his jaw came off. That public meltdown finally forced action. In 1932, after Byers died, the FTC moved in, ordered Bailey's company to stop, and the whole radioactive tonic era got wiped out. And the irony is almost perfect. Radithor wasn't lying about what it was. It was honest about the ingredients, which is exactly why it killed you. So yeah, today, when you see a miracle supplement promising the universe in one sip, remember, we've done this before. We just used to do it with radium. Number 3, the illegal baby walker. This is basically giving a baby a sports car, but for your staircase. Because the classic baby walker, you know, the little seat suspended in a plastic frame on wheels, is still totally normal in the US. You can grab one like it's just another piece of nursery gear. Cute. Convenient. Look, he's zooming. But in Canada, that exact wheeled baby walker is straight up illegal, not discouraged, not we recommend against it. Illegal to import, manufacture, sell, advertise, and even give away used. And the reason is pure physics. The moment you give a baby wheels, you've basically hacked their speed. According to reports, a baby in a walker can move around 3 feet per second, which doesn't sound wild until you realize that's fast enough to reach a staircase and launch themselves down it before your adult brain even finishes processing. Hey, where did the baby go? That's the twist. This isn't about bad parenting. Health Canada's argument was basically, human reaction time cannot beat a wheeled infant, especially when the walker lets them reach things they normally couldn't, like hot stoves, dangling cords, or the top of a step. And when those wheels drop off an edge, the baby's heavy head and shifted center of gravity pull them forward, so you get head-first impacts, traumatic injuries, skull fractures, the kind of stuff that turns helping them learn to walk into an ER speedrun. Parents pushed back with the classic line, "Just watch your kids better," and Canada basically replied, "Cool. No? Because you can't outparent gravity." So in 2004, Health Canada went full scorched earth and banned them. And the punchline is how extreme it gets. If you try to sell your used baby walker at a Canadian yard sale, you're theoretically risking up to a $100,000 CAD fine and up to 6 months in jail for a plastic circle with wheels. Meanwhile, in the US, they didn't ban them, mostly redesigns and friction brakes. And the American Academy of Pediatrics has been begging for a full ban for years. So yeah, same product, same injury data, totally different national vibe. Canada saw a baby on wheels and said, that's a weapon. The US saw it and said, add brakes and send it. Number 2, the magnetic intestine pinchers. This sounds fake, but it's real. A little desk toy for adults got treated like a national hazard because kids kept swallowing it like it was candy. Buckyballs were these tiny, ultra-powerful rare earth magnet spheres, neodymium, sold as stress relief for your desk. You'd roll them, click them, build shapes, pretend you're productive, and they were insanely popular. Millions of sets sold. Very satisfying. Very, I'm an adult, and I deserve a small harmless joy. And then the twist? If you swallow them, they don't just pass through like a coin. They go hunting. The nightmare scenario is when someone swallows more than one magnet at different times, especially kids messing around, using them as fake tongue or lip piercings. One magnet is in one loop of intestine, the other is somewhere else. And then they find each other through the tissue and snap together. Not gently, like a trap closing. And once that happens, your body basically becomes the thing stuck in the middle of a vice. The magnets clamp an intestinal wall between them, cut off blood flow, and the tissue starts dying, necrosis, in a matter of hours. Then you can end up with holes in the bowel, leaking bacteria into places bacteria should never be. And suddenly you're talking about emergency surgery and potentially deadly sepsis. It's like clamping a vice grip onto a garden hose until the rubber rots completely through, except the hose is you. That surge of pediatric ER cases is what lit the fuse. The CPSC went after Buckyballs hard, arguing that warning labels weren't enough because the danger is invisible until it's catastrophic. The founder, Craig Zucker, fought back like it was a principle. He pointed out that they were labeled for older users, ages 14 plus, and basically said adults shouldn't lose a desk toy because some kids were eating magnets like snacks. He even ran snarky campaigns against the CPSC. The CPSC did not laugh. They sued his company to force a mandatory recall, treating the product like an inherent defect, not misuse, but this is too dangerous to exist in homes. Legal fees piled up, and by 2014, the whole thing collapsed. Zucker reportedly paid a $375,000 settlement personally to fund the recall. The company dissolved, and Buckyballs as a brand basically died on the spot. And yeah, there's a disputed footnote. In 2016, a federal judge reportedly overturned the CPSC's blanket ban on all rare earth magnets, saying the agency overstepped. But by then, the original company was already gone, and stricter standards came back around anyway. So the irony is perfect. These magnets were so absurdly, aggressively attractive. They didn't just pinch intestines. They dragged the entire weight of the federal government down onto a desk toy company. Number 1. The heavy metal jarts. Imagine it's a sunny weekend, you've got burgers on the grill, kids running around barefoot, and someone hands them a game that's basically a 12-inch metal spike with fins. You toss it 30 feet into the air, and it comes down point first every single time. That's exactly what lawn darts were. They were sold as backyard fun, but the twist is they were designed perfectly, like a weapon. A real jart had a heavy metal tip, often brass, and plastic fins that made it insanely stable in flight. So it didn't wobble, it didn't flutter, it didn't kind of land. It followed a clean parabolic arc and drove straight down tip first with maximum force. It's like throwing a giant weighted plumb bob into the air and hoping nobody happens to be standing where gravity decides to finish the sentence. And the CPSC knew these things were dangerous. For years, there were warnings, restrictions, and this whole idea that they should be treated like an adult game, sold away from toy aisles. But here's the part that makes it infuriating. There was a loophole. If you slapped "not a toy for children" on the box, companies could keep selling medieval weaponry disguised as a picnic activity. Then, in April 1987, it stopped being abstract. A 7-year-old girl named Michelle Snow was struck in the skull and killed by a lawn dart thrown by a friend's brother, reportedly over a fence. And her father, David Snow, started digging. He found out the government had records of more than 6,100 emergency room visits connected to these darts. And they still weren't fully banned. So he did what the system apparently wouldn't. He launched this relentless one-man crusade. He bought lawn darts, brought them to Washington, and reportedly slammed them onto politicians' desks to prove, in the most physical way possible, that this wasn't a toy problem. It was a "why are we selling weighted spikes" problem. And finally, in 1988, the CPSC enacted a total ban on all rigid-tipped lawn darts in the US. No loopholes, no adult game label, no cute packaging, just gone. Today, the closest you'll find are blunt plastic versions or beanbag-style replacements, because we collectively decided maybe backyard games shouldn't be shaped like something from a medieval battlefield. And the punchline is brutal. It took thousands of injuries and a child's death for everyone to admit the obvious. If your family game lands with enough force to pierce a skull, it was never a game. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.